Okay, welcome 7th grade. This is going to be a quick video of the notes from September 15th. We had some technology issues yesterday. Ms. Hahn has put the notes online, so you have the written form. So I'm not just going to go through and read those to you. You can do that. I'm just going to kind of go over what we talked about yesterday and maybe a little different format, and hopefully it'll help you make sense of some of these words. And we're going to start with the word matter, only because I think everything builds around this word, which is matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. And what do we mean by take up space or has value? Basically, if when you go there, it pushes something out, right? Or when something goes someplace and makes something else have to move, or you can't have two things in the same spot because they're taking up space, right? If I park my car in the parking lot, it takes up space. Something else can't park in that same spot. They could park on top of me. They could slide underneath me, maybe, right? We can get inside the car, but the car itself is taking up space. And when it comes to mass, I like to look at mass as, I think Ms. Hahn said, it's a measure of the quantity of matter. To me, I look at mass as how much stuff is inside that volume. Okay, what's making it up? Is it a lot of stuff or a little bit of stuff? Is it? And when I say stuff, it's really atoms I'm talking about. But we haven't got into atoms yet. But when we get into atoms, it'll make more sense. But if I look at mass as how many atoms there are of whatever elements that makes up something, that'll tell me how much mass it has. And the more atoms that you stuff in there, the more mass it has, right? The more dense those atoms are, the more I can fit in there, the more mass it has. So matter has mass and takes up space. And then the other word was a substance, which is a type of matter. And it's kind of like a generic term, like, oh, that's a substance. It just means that it's a type of matter. And now we have to break it down into what type of matter that is. And the one word that we used yesterday was element. And an element is a substance, right, meaning it's matter, that cannot be broken down by chemical or physical means or processes. And what that means is basically elements are the simplest forms of matter. Okay, atoms being the building blocks, but if we have one atom of gold, that is an element. If we have 100 atoms of gold, that's still an element because it's still gold, and gold cannot be broken into something else. That's a little different than something like water, which is H2O, which I could break into H and O, where gold is gold. I can't break it down into two things. So that's an important part. Elements are the basic or the smallest, not the smallest, atoms are the smallest, but elements are the basic form of substance, right? They cannot be broken down even more. All the other substances we talk about, we can break them down back into their original elements that made them. So elements are kind of like the building blocks of all the other substances, and atoms are the building blocks of matter, the matter itself. And when we talk about this breaking down chemically or physically, what does that mean? So basically, chemical processes are processes that involve the interactions with other elements, okay, or other matter, or substances, versus a physical property, which is just changing the substance itself without any other substance being involved. And a great example of that would be melting ice. Okay, water is a substance. If we melt it, it becomes water still. It's just the difference between a solid water and liquid water. Even if I boil it and it becomes gaseous water, it's still water. It's just in gas form. So those are all physical changes versus rusting, which was if you have metal and it mixes with the oxygen, it can rust. And then that metal kind of flakes and disappears because it's turned into something new. It's turned into rust. It's no longer metal and oxygen. It is rust. So chemical properties and chemical changes are going to change the substance, where a physical one is going to keep it as the same substance. It might just change its shape or its size or its color. Okay. And then we also talked a little bit about the periodic table. Mrs. Hahn mentioned Dmitri Mendeleev, who was credited with the first periodic table that was actually organized and seemed to work. And he was Russian. And we are going to get more involved in the periodic table as the week goes on and next week. But for now, that's it.